Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Rachel, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. So today, I am gonna be filming my favorite video to film every month, and that is my monthly palette ranking. This is basically a way for me to give you my final thoughts and reviews on palettes that I've been testing. Many of the palettes I'm going to be talking about today were launched last year, and I'm now just getting a chance to fully collect my thoughts on them. I've had enough time to test them because I don't put palettes in this video that I've only used once or twice. I really want to get really familiar with the formulas and the color stories, the looks that I can create with them, and then I can tell you how I feel about them. So I am going to link all of the palettes down below in the description box that are still available. I will let you know if I received the palette in PR. If I don't remember to mention it, I will put it up somewhere on the screen here. Everything that is on my face will be in the description box as well, and let's get started. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts as well as I'm going through these palettes. Let me know your little review on them as well if you picked them up, or let me know if you have been eyeing these palettes or if you're skipping on them. So always with these videos, I like to give the disclaimer that these palettes are ranked based on my own opinion, based on my own preferences in terms of color story, my own preferences in terms of formulas that I like to work with. I don't think any of these palettes are bad palettes. I've come to a place now in my makeup life where A, I'm purchasing things that I'm pretty sure I'm going to like, and B, I'm so lucky to receive PR from my favorite brands that I love and trust that do put out good products. So all the palettes here are good. There's just maybe one or two things I might change about the palette, or again, color story preferences, things I like less, things I like more. Okay, enough talking. You get it. Let's start with number 10 because I have 10 palettes to talk about today. Coming in at number 10, I have the DD Signature Jingle Bell Ruby palette. So I did receive this in PR, and this was DD Signature's holiday collection from 2023. Now, one thing I would love to see from DD Signature in the future is their packaging being just elevated a little bit. I definitely think that would go a long way for the brand, but I know that they just restarted. They did take a long hiatus, so maybe that's in their future to just like change up their packaging a little bit. So on the inside, we have this gorgeous color story. It's very holiday. By the way, I forgot to mention, my lighting is a little different today. If you notice, I am down a light. I used 3 lights to film, and one of my lights I no longer have. I had to order a new light, so it's not until tomorrow. So bear with me with the lighting. But anyway, this color story is very holiday. We've got greens, we've got reds, we've got variations on those tones. For DD Signature, I think that their shimmers are really beautiful, ultra sparkly, ultra smooth. Some are opaque, some have a little bit more of a translucent base so that they're more toppery. I mean, the shimmers from the brand are phenomenal. But I will say the mattes in this palette are just okay in terms of quality. I don't think like they're the best mattes I've ever tried, but they're not the worst mattes I've ever tried either. And for me, the color story of this is what's putting this at number 10. Now again, because it's number 10 doesn't mean I don't like the palette, because I do. I just have so many amazing palettes to talk about today. But these greens down here, especially these two and these two shimmers, this little quad over here is definitely more like greenish blues, teals, that type of color story, which I just don't really love to wear. It's just my least favorite color to wear. I really like the reddish tones here. I think this is a beautiful part of the palette, but overall color story, I just like everything a little bit more, and the mattes are just okay, and the packaging I wish was just a little more elevated. Coming in at number 9, I have the Game Beauty Metaverse palette. So for me, I really enjoy this color story. I think it's really pretty, and I'm discovering now with blues, there are certain blues I actually do like wearing. Like I am wearing some blues on my eyes today. These type of like, what kind of a blue is that? Would you describe it as? Like a cobalt blue? A blue that doesn't have a green undertone. Like this one is very much a greenish blue. Not my favorite color to wear, but these types of blues I actually quite like. And of course, all the rest of the shades in here are warm tones, which if you know me, I love warm tones. I really like this shimmer here, this like gold one called Casino of Jealousy. But this one, Spaceport of Greed, is very, very, very dry. In fact, I had to go on the website just to make sure that it was a metallic, and it's marketed as a metallic. It's just extremely dry. I think that the palettes they came out with at the end of last year, this one came out like towards the middle of last year, the quality has stepped up a lot. I can see a big difference in quality in my opinion. Okay, and I did receive this one in PR from the brand. I did some like sponsored reels with some of their palettes, and they asked me to pick some things out from the website, and I wanted to try this. I picked up this one and one of their Elemental Blast palettes, and I like this palette. I will continue using this. I don't want to declutter it or anything, but there are just things I like a little bit more, and so yeah. That's why it's coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, I have the Natasha Denona My Mini Dream palette. This one, you know, from here on up, I don't really have complaints about formula. The mattes in this are great. The shimmers are pretty. They're not like the sparkliest shimmers ever. They are more of her standard, little bit more thin shimmer that has a shine, but it's not sparkly. I prefer her like more sparkly shimmers that she's come out with in her midi palettes recently. And my biggest complaint with this is just a color story thing. This shade here, I won't get use out of. It is literally the same shade as my skin tone. I can't use it as a transition shade. I can't use it as a highlighting shade. And with a palette this small, I really want to be able to use all of the shades. Other than this shade, I think this is a beautiful neutral palette that I'll pack with me when I travel. I think it's stunning. Honestly, quality is very good. Coming in at number 7, I have the What's Up Beauty Dragon Eye palette. So packaging, 20 out of 10. 20 out of 10. Stunningly beautiful. Love this fierce dragon on the front. It's textured. It's got different metallic elements. And then on the inside, we have this really pretty color story. This is typically the color story that What's Up Beauty is known for, where they have pretty much all neutral mattes and pops of color for the shimmers. The thing that is different about this palette in comparison to their other palettes is these shimmers are multi-chromes. Now, I would argue some of them are more like duochromes. Some of them have more like sparkly particles in it that are different colors. I don't feel like they're all like super shifty multi-chromes, but I will say the shimmers are very pretty, very sparkly, very shiny, very impactful. No duds in terms of the shimmers, in my opinion. The only thing I think I would change about this, only because of the cover, only because of the theme, and also because a lot of the shimmers in here do have green reflect in them, is I would like a green matte. I think that would have come a long way to make this palette a little bit more dragon-esque. Do I have a green matte in my collection that I can pull from? Absolutely. But if I am ranking these palettes as standalones, that is just how I feel about that. But of course, I will pull it in a green matte. If I want to add a green matte, I can certainly do that. But quality of this is very good. The mattes from What's Up Beauty are a little bit more on the silky side. They're not overly pigmented. They're easy to build up, easy to work with. I really enjoy their formulas. It's just, I kind of wish there was a green matte. Other than that, it's really beautiful. Coming in at number 6, I have the Gourmand Girls and Doodles by the Bunny Silent Night palette. This was their holiday collection for 2023, and they have now collaborated on 4 palettes, so this is their 4th palette together. I think this is an absolutely beautiful neutral palette with a couple of pops of blue, honestly. We have 2 blue shimmers, we have 2 blue mattes. Everything else here I would consider pretty much a neutral. This iridescent shade does have like purple blue reflect, but everything else, we've got browns, we've got black, we've got this like macaroni and cheese color, which I love. We have a matte white, which I love for the inner corner, different browns, which I love. And this shimmer here called Peace is absolutely beautiful. It is kind of hard to explain and describe. It is like a silvery taupe color that has blue purple reflect. It's just like an ice queen in a metallic shadow. How I described the What's Up Beauty mattes is kind of how I would describe the Gourmand Girl mattes, where they're definitely not powdery at all whatsoever. They are a little bit more on the silky side, easier to build up, easier to work with. And the shimmers, some of them are smoother, some of them are a little more textured, which I'm not a big fan of a textured shimmer. The 2 blues here, the 2 blue shimmers, I could have done without one of them. They are different, but they're not different enough for me as someone that doesn't really wear a blue shimmer very often. I could have done with maybe one of them being a very light blue, very, very light blue shimmer, or something else. I feel like they're pretty similar, okay? And then same with these 2 blue mattes. They're pretty similar, especially on the eyes. Maybe one of them could have been like a pastel blue. I think that could have been really pretty. Other than that, this palette is absolutely gorgeous. Coming in at number 5, I have the Glaminitrix Rich Romantic palette. This is my first purchase from the brand. I've heard so many great things about them. And honestly, the palette is gorgeous. It's undeniable. It's gorgeous. We've got these like rosy tones, which I'm very much into, a pink purple color story. I'm all about it. And I really like the selection of mattes here. I think they did a really good job. We've got a deep brown, we've got a deep red, we've got some more mid-tone and light shades. This row here, I created a like truly brown neutral look with this row and I absolutely loved it. If I can get a neutral look out of a palette, I'm happy. I'm happy. The only downside I would say to this, and again, it's not the end of the world, I can pull into other palettes, is many of these shimmers have a green reflect to them, which I think is a little strange with the accompanying mattes. So I don't know. There's a lot of green shimmer in here, or green reflect, I should say, which I think is interesting. It's kind of like head scratching. I will say though, still beautiful. The shimmers are very sparkly, very impactful. I missed out on their Nearly Natural palette. I still dream about that palette. I still miss it. I still have FOMO with it. So many people always comment how much they love that palette. And I'm so excited that I was able to try the brand with this palette because I think it's stunning. And the packaging is also very luxurious. Coming in at number 4, this may seem like a surprise, but honestly, I cannot stop reaching for this palette. I cannot stop reaching for it. I find myself wanting to use this every day, and it is the ColourPop Bare Necessities palette. Very basic, okay, but listen, sometimes I'm a basic girl. I did get this in PR from ColourPop. They reached out to me last year. It was like around May, June, and they asked me to pick out some things from their website. I picked this out, and I literally have just been getting to using it since the beginning of the year, end of last year, beginning of this year, and I've honestly reached for it so much in my everyday life. I'm not someone who wears a no makeup look, but I do love a neutral look. And I can get so many beautiful neutral looks out of this. Now, is there like a huge variety in this palette? No. No, of course not. But you have warm tones. You have some more like purpley undertones. You have some like neutral tones. I wouldn't say cool tones, but honestly, I've really enjoyed all the looks I've gotten out of this. We have a lot of mattes. It's very matte heavy, which is my preference. I like the shimmers in here. Some of the shimmers are that kind of ColourPop shimmer that I don't love, where they're a little thicker on the lid. They're not super shiny, but a lot of these shimmers are really pretty. So yeah, I do really enjoy this palette. I actually enjoy it more than I thought I was going to, and I really can't stop reaching for it. I really can't stop reaching for it. Coming in at number 3, I have the palette that is on my eyes today, and I will say number 3 and number 2 were very close. They could be switched if you ask me tomorrow. It's one of those situations. They're both stunning. But the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today and that's coming in at number 3 is the Unearthly Cosmetics Dreamer palette. Mark my words, this will be coming in the top 10 palettes of 2024. Like I already predicted. First of all, love the cover. Love the cover. Love the cover. And then on the inside, we have this beautiful pinky purple cool toned palette. I'm not a huge cool tone lover, or I should say I prefer warm tones to cool tones. But Unearthly Cosmetics formula, I feel like they can create any color story and it always looks great because the formula is top notch. Their mattes are, I would say, more on the pigmented side. So beautiful. And I've always really enjoyed their mattes, but their shimmers have just gone to another level now. And I like this palette because there are some special shades in here, but they're not all multi-chromes. Sometimes I like just a regular old shimmer, and we do have a mix of like special shades as well as regular shimmers in here. This shade Dream State is a holographic shimmer, but I like that it's a holographic shimmer that is still smooth. It's not like super chunky like some brands are. And I really love purples. I like pinks. Like I said, I'm enjoying rosy tones. I can get a neutral look out of this. I've got a brown, I've got like a light purple, I've got a mauve, I've got this champagne color. I've really enjoyed every single look I've gotten out of this palette. I mean, honestly, it's absolutely phenomenal. I did buy the Dreamer box, the whole Dreamer box myself, although I am an Unearthly affiliate and she did offer us the palette in PR if we wanted it, or we could buy the box, and I just bought the box. So technically I got this in PR, I guess you could say, because I would have gotten the palette if I asked for just the palette, but absolutely stunning. If you like this color story and you like pigmented mattes and shiny shimmers that are smooth, I think you would love this one. Like I said, coming in number 2 is very close to the Dreamer palette in terms of like what I love. I love both of these palettes equally, if I'm going to be honest with you. And it is the Fantasy Cosmetica Fighter palette. This is by far my favorite Fantasy Cosmetica palette that I've tried so far. Listen, it's a neutral palette, so like that's why. And I think this is an interesting neutral palette. It's not just a plain old neutral, like all browns. There is some interest in here. We've got this like mustardy shade, which I love. We have a true just like neutral brown, which I love. This row here, or column I should say, is very blue leaning, very cool tone leaning, which I don't always love, but it kind of looks like the look I may have on my eyes today, although I did, like I said, use the Dreamer palette. The shimmers from Fantasy Cosmetica are stunning as well, like I said with Unearthly, just very wet looking, very impactful, just so yummy. And the mattes are nice. They are that mid pigment level, not overly pigmented, not really super sheer, really beautiful shimmer formula. I love how small this is. It's a little 9 pan. Love it. Love it. I love the color story, and I just love Fantasy Cosmetica's formulas. And then coming in at number 1, can I get a drum roll, please? I have the Glamlite and Garfield palette. Listen, first of all, packaging, 100 out of 10. It's hard to explain, but when you see this in person, the graphics on this are so comic and cartoonish, so crisp and clear. I just love the packaging. So this is the outer carton, which I'm keeping, by the way. And then the actual palette itself, again, packaging is so spot on. It reminds me of my childhood. I used to love reading the Garfield comics. I used to love watching the TV show. So I love the whole IP, and they just do a great job with packaging. I did purchase this myself, by the way. And the color story, I mean, warm tones. We have so many different varieties in terms of the mattes here. We've got this macaroni and cheese shade, which you know I love. We have a couple of browns. We have like a red with a pink undertone. We have this like warm orange. And then we have these 2 like cool toned colors with this purple shade, purple metallic. I did create a really pretty purple look. The Glamlite shimmers, again, like I've been saying, they are just so beautiful, smooth and sparkly, all of them. They never have duds with their shimmers. They just hit it out of the park every time. And the mattes in this are really nice as well. Kind of that mid-level pigment, not overly pigmented, not sheer, just really beautiful. I love this palette. Everything about it, I love. All right, and that is it for this palette ranking video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on any of the palettes I talked about today. Of course, I'm gonna link them all down below. Any affiliate codes that I may have with the brands will also be, they're always down in my description box, all the way at the bottom of the description box if you're ever curious. And let me know your thoughts because I love hearing from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, and I'd love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.